Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hubar begins now.
And the Tasman Bridge was lit up overnight in the flag colours of Ukraine to mark 1 year since the invasion began. Yesterday, protesters in Hobart called for more to be done by the international community to condemn Russia's actions. In developing news, a male motorbike rider has been taken to the Northwest Regional Hospital with reported serious injuries following a crash at Cradle Mountain Road at Wilmot. Police are still at the scene and are investigating the circumstances behind the incident. The sole Tasmanian charity dedicated to struggling mothers and their children is in desperate need of funding. More support is required to keep a roof over the heads of volunteers as demand for the service skyrockets.
Targeted by vandals on Thursday night, a graffiti building is just another unwanted stress hitting the vital Tassie Mums organisation.
We're helping children do basic things like get to school. Prams are freedom machines, and if you've got more than one child, just being able to pop them in the pram and push them to school.
But the not-for-profit needs support now more than ever to ensure they have this place to call home well into the future.
Unfortunately, at the moment, we are really only a few months away from not having that security of this building. So we're seeking funding to ensure we can stay here.
Without the service, there's concerns thousands across the state could be left behind.
It does pull at my heartstrings because to imagine that my kids were in that situation would just be heartbreaking. So anything that I can do to help. Issuing
a plea to the wider community to back the initiative.
I would really love some unique Tasmanian businesses to get behind us with some annual sponsorship.
Over 1,500 children benefited from the support of Tassie Mums in 2022, with the organisation already planning to exceed that number by the end of this year.
Our need is steadily increasing. At the moment, we're averaging 140 children a month, and that will peak at over 200 children through the winter months.
The state government previously helping to fund incentives.
We'd say this is an issue for all of us in the community, but certainly we're well and truly able to have ongoing contact and feedback from Tassie Mums, and we'll monitor that and respond as we possibly can.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government is safeguarding the Safe Spaces program for the next 3 years, announcing a multi-million-dollar funding commitment. As the homelessness crisis continues to worsen, service providers say it's a positive step towards providing security for vulnerable Tasmanians.
Those sleeping rough will be able to rest easier.
And putting a roof over somebody's head, there's nothing better than that.
With the state government locking in a $21 million commitment to the Safe Spaces program over the next 3 years.
This will inject confidence and the certainty that the providers need to continue to provide these important services.
The key that we know for supporting people who are in crisis is offering an environment that has consistency and stability, and so we're delighted with the news.
Providing a safe space to sleep, the program currently delivers 88 beds across the state, with 35 in Hobart, 33 in Launceston and 20 in Burnie.
It's providing them stability to help improve physical, mental and emotional health, and it's getting them connected into a system that will give them the best chance of finding longer-term housing.
With a need for such services still ever present.
And we're seeing those beds now currently allocated most days, so the demand is still there for that. We're still turning people away or not being able to take everyone who rings the service.
On average, 3 to 9 people remain on the waiting list each night in Launceston. It's hoped the extra funding will provide vulnerable Tasmanians with more stability, inevitably creating greater vacancy in the service.
To know that there's been that transition just in the last few months of up to 6 people into more permanent housing is fantastic news, and that's really what we want to do.
Helping people transition from crisis accommodation into stable long-term housing. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
A burst water main in Launceston wreaked havoc for motorists this morning. Police were called to Franklin Street at around 6:30 with reports a large amount of water was flowing down the thoroughfare and into Wellington Street. The road was blocked off for around 12 hours, only impacting a handful of customers. The LGH and an after-hours medical surgery were not affected. Following investigations, Taswater says the burst was caused by a rupture in the infrastructure, which has now been repaired. Emergency services are urging Tasmanians in the south to remain vigilant tonight with a change in weather predicted. High fire dangers cease this afternoon with hot temperatures beginning to ease. The weather system is now transitioning into variable rainfall expected to hit this evening.
It will stir up the atmosphere to give us moderate to heavy falls around the southeast of 20 to 40 millimetres. There is a possibility of thunderstorms as well, so for the overnight period from about 9 p.m. especially till about 3 a.m.
The area that we're really concerned about is Huonville, Geeveston, Kingborough and the Greater Hobart area. Not to the scale of what we saw in the northwest, but certainly there is the chance of flash flooding over the next 12 hours or to 24 hours.
SES crews are on standby across the state, and Tom Johnson will have all the weather later on in our bulletin. A Goodwood man has been charged in connection to an incident at a Moonah supermarket on Wednesday. The 31-year-old was arrested in the Hobart CBD and was later charged with causing grievous bodily harm. He's now been detained in custody and will face court at a later date. The victim of the assault remains in hospital in a serious condition. A Tasmanian man has been charged with trafficking methamphetamine through Perth Airport. The 32-year-old was arriving on a flight from Sydney last Saturday before being stopped for a baggage examination. Australian Federal Police officers finding approximately 13.4 kilograms of the substance in his checked luggage. The maximum penalty for the offence is life imprisonment. The accused fronted the Perth Magistrates Court last Sunday and is expected to reappear next month. Tasmania's 15 Victoria Cross recipients have been remembered in a special service held by their relatives. Australia's last surviving awardee travelling to Hobart to pay tributes to the veterans, many he knew personally.
Keeping their loved ones' legacies alive, the families of Tasmania's 15 Victoria Cross recipients today reuniting.
We have to remember, because if we forget this, what else do we forget? God forbid that we forget living veterans.
The Victoria Cross is the highest award for acts of wartime bravery in the British and Commonwealth Armed Forces.
We are proud of our Victoria Cross recipients. Not just the act that resulted in their award, but the years of training, the sense of duty and their personal courage.
Sergeant Percy Clyde Statten was awarded the VC for running towards 4 enemy machine gun posts in succession and disposing of 2. His great-granddaughter Kerry initiating the ceremony.
When I rang Bernard Sidney Gordon's daughter and told her what I was doing, she burst into tears because she thought her father had been forgotten.
The last surviving veteran awarded the VC under the Imperial Honours System, flying in specifically for the event, making a grand entrance via helicopter and a vintage Jeep.
It's good to meet the descendants and have a bit of a yarn.
Wreaths laid for those no longer here in person.
It's an emotional thing. I know quite a lot of the VCs that have passed on, you know.
Gone but never forgotten. It's hoped the reunion will become a biannual tradition. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Jack Jumpers, super fans, players and coaches are all starting to roll into MyState Bank Arena for the club's Night of Nights. Our reporter Grace Evans is live from the MVP Awards. Good evening, Grace. There is plenty to celebrate tonight.
There certainly is, Lou. The Jack Jumpers' most valuable player in their second season of the NBL will be recognised in the coming hours. And now that's as voted by the coaches. And while it wasn't the championship ending season that the organisation had hoped for, they've still enjoyed a large amount of success in the competition. Of course, there will be a number of contenders vying for that MVP award who will be honoured for their efforts, but most notably is American import Milton Doyle. Now, he has had a stellar first season and he's already been named in the All-NBL First 5 team. And it won't be the only accolade that they celebrate tonight. There'll be plenty more handed down as the entire franchise takes a look back on some of those incredible moments of the season, Lou, both on and off the floor.
Looks wonderful already. Thanks for that, Grace. I hope the night goes well. Meanwhile, the Tasmanian Tigers women's team are in the driver's seat for back-to-back titles in the WNCL. Lizelle Lee was off to a strong start with 48 runs, featuring 5 fours and 2 sixes, with Elise Viliani and Naomi Stallenberg forming an effective batting partnership.
Stallenberg, diving effort from Courtney Webb, doesn't quite get there.
The Tigers captain celebrating another century this season, contributing to the team's total of 264 runs in 50 overs. South Australia need 239 runs from 252 balls. The flagship tournament for Tasmanian golf has come to a close, with the men's and women's Tasmanian Open wrapping up this afternoon. Dozens of competitors battled the heat at the Launceston Golf Club across 3 action-packed days. Jazzy Roberts edged out Tasmanian Georgia Bailey in a playoff to claim the women's title, while Victorian Toby Walker upstaged the pros in his return to the event, with the amateur winning by 4 strokes, earning $35,000 in prize money. And John Bowe has missed out on race 1 of Touring Car Masters at Symmons Plains due to a blown engine. It was Stephen Johnson that took out the checkered flag, his 55th Touring Car Masters win.
He's about to cross the finish line, so congratulations, Steve Johnson.
Meanwhile, New South Welshman Joey Mawson took out top honours in race 1 of the S5000 Australia Drivers' Championship.
Good evening. Something a bit different from me tonight, having a crack at the weather, so let's get straight into it. Hobart topped the state today, 34 the maximum. Warm as well in Launceston, 29. Cooler on the northwest coast, a top of 23. Temperatures in some parts of the state were 11 degrees above average. Grove and Bushy Park sweltered through 32. St Helens a top of 30. Flinders Island hot and 31. But King Island managed just 19. Taking a look at the satellite picture, you can see a mid to high level cloud band moving across the state from the west. On the big picture, thunderstorms are battering the top end and a cloud band stretches from the red centre off to the southeast. Patchy afternoon cover is seen over the rest of the country. Tomorrow, a monsoon trough will make its way over tropical Queensland with a low near Darwin, while a high off the southern coast of WA extends over the Bight. Winds up to 30 knots tomorrow in the west. North to northeasterlies will reach between 10 to 20 knots and it'll be breezier across the state in the afternoon. A strong wind warning for east of Flinders Island and from St Helens to Port Arthur. The same off the west coast from Southeast Cape up to Sandy Cape. A big cool change on the way for Hobart tomorrow, 20 and likely to rain. Similar in Richmond, 21, Ooze a top of 23. Showers in Launceston, 25 the maximum. Devonport, 24. Showers also in Deloraine, 24 the top. Burnie a shower or 2 and 22. Wet in Strawn, 23. Curry will reach 21. And the rain's coming for the east as well. St Helens 22, Swansea 21, 22 on Flinders Island. Tomorrow's UV steady at 8, still very high. Looking ahead to Monday, possible morning showers for Hobart, a top of 19. Cloudy elsewhere with Launceston expecting 25. The rain returns Tuesday around much of the state, temperatures staying cool. And starting to fine up in the northwest, north and east on Wednesday. Hobart and Strawn though are expecting more showers. Around the grounds, a Perth scorcher, 35 the maximum. Adelaide and Melbourne partly cloudy and 24. Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane set to reach 30. And that tropical rain will mix with highs of 31 in Cairns and Darwin. And right now it's starting to drizzle in Hobart, 21, Launceston 23 and cloudy, and Devonport currently 20 and rain. And Lou, it was desperate times trying to find someone to fill this role tonight. All of our wonderful weekend presenters are at the Harry Styles concert in Melbourne, but gee, I've loved it so much. Will you have me back?
Of course we'll have you back, Tom. You really are the jack of all trades. Thank you for that. And that wraps up your news for this Saturday evening. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.